day we sound the drum for freedom, as have our generation of forebears before us done, time and again down through history. Let us rise to the call of freedom-loving blood that is in us, and send our answer to the tyranny that clanks its chains upon the South. In the name of the greatest people that have ever trod this earth, I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny, and I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
That's right. Then you say what? Black men are criminals when we got tape of them dropping guns and planting guns on black brothers. For years! For years! For years! The white man is the devil! Take that to your church tomorrow! Tell them we said it! He's the devil the Bible speaks of! And you should separate from anybody who lies to you and murders you and rapes your children and enslaves your men! You should separate! No more we gon' join this white man! No more we gon' join your economy! We ain't gon' vote! We're going to separate from you! Because he's the devil the Bible speaks of. Read on.
He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
The Bible says the white man gonna be cast down and his angels with him. You know who his angels are? T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar, Louis Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, and
to the National Party because its members found the MP's race policy too liberal.
Eugene, Appearing they would be swamped by the ANC's
Terreblanche.
He and Terreblanche both belong to an alliance of more than 20 right-wing movements, Afrikaner.
retreated before them. Signs of glass and everything shattering, everything, and reports coming through that they are looking for us. Particularly
terrified delegates barricaded themselves in their offices.
Waar die springende en kransen gevuld wordt met die achtlos skriende van die kraai die wilde hand. Hier is een hartseer land met een hartseer geschiedenis. Dis jou eie land! Sê die baas van jou huis en jou plaas is daar sekere gronde en die erfenis van die totale, absolute, ononderhandelbare eiendomme. Daar se van die top en die mense wat boere is, wat samen vervoers in een land die eie titel akte, die is die eienaars van die grond, die die leer is. Which we talk about will happen in a few days or weeks' time. And I said it over years. When that happens, we will restore law and order and we will immediately take over part of the land as the Afrikaner, the Boer People's Republic. You are on your way to chaos.
Amazing Grace, hallelujah. I don't like to sing Amazing Grace. You know why? Because one that wrote that song was a slave trader. Take his name and read it out. He never changed it. To the day he died, the man that wrote Amazing Grace, child, slave trader. He also traded in opium, and he sold black babies, brown babies. Never changed his way. I don't want to hear the song. I hear the husband finger cross, but I got to Amazing Grace. What kind of a devil like that will tell little Bobby that knows about Amazing Grace? What's he know about Amazing Grace? He knows about a vicarious grace, you see. He thought he could do every darn thing he wanted, and after all, it wasn't him to count. He just leaned on Jesus. He'd be a slave trader Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday sing Amazing Grace, and he'd go in the pearly gates. That's the kind of class you've been preaching. That's the kind of class you've been listening to. That you can live like a righteous king all day long. You're trying to win people. Get down with me. I won't take segregated. You never hear me preach about hell. That damn little concoction was made up to scare people into going to religion. I wouldn't be that dirty. I've always been straight. You never hear
was the basic premise of Mao? Your menu already passed. What was the basic premise of Mao? Mao Zedong said there's only one way a revolution can come. Do you know, Millie? Now let's hold it now. How did Mao Zedong say the only way you can bring a revolution and keep it?
Well, the only way I think you can keep it by being peace and being honorable.
Oh shit, being at peace. Mao Zedong said that? No. He's the head of China. He's the head of the revolution of China. He marched 6,000 people on a long march. Okay, what did he say? There's only one way you can bring about a revolution.
Only way you can bring it on is by killing.
Well, what is? That's okay. I'm going to let you pass it. But what do you say? That's a nice little phrase that everybody should know. Change only comes with opinions. Change comes through
by a barrel of gun.
That's right, senior. And that's good. Because you, by rights, could have every reason to forget someday. Change must come through the barrel of a gun, said Mao Zedong. This place would be a paradise tomorrow if every department had a supervisor with a submachine gun. There'd be no shit here, right? Everybody worked, we'd have no trouble. That's a shame. But we have the right to do certain things. The government suggested we get armed, so we will be able to enforce our laws. Yes, thank you, dear.
I've lived since I was a child. First time I felt guilt when a little dog died, I wanted to commit suicide. I had still some little dogs and cats alive, but had me alone to take care of them at that age. That's all that kept me through. And a little bit later, my mom needed me, and some poor soul down the road needed me.
It's never been done before, you say. It's been done by every tribe in history. Every tribe facing annihilation. All the Indians of the Amazon are doing it right now. They refuse to bring any babies into the world. They kill every child that comes into the world because they don't want to live in this kind of a world. So be patient, be patient. Death is, I tell you, I don't care how many screams you hear, I don't care how many anguished cries. Death is a million times preferable to 10 more days of this life. If you knew what was ahead of you, you'd be glad to be stepping over tonight.
Looking after your brothers and sisters? Who's looking after you?
It's me.
So I've been making many sacrifices and many penances, pleading to God that please, I love this baby so much. I want you to do a very big miracle, you know. Even we can spread it in the papers, just if we can heal him. There's nothing of that. He's getting worse and worse and finish. I will miss him very much because I love him there more than anyone else in the house. He's just hanging to me. I will miss him very much.
11-month-old Barney is HIV positive. His spindly body is barely the husk of a child his age. Barney is in the final writhing stages of AIDS. Tubbo and Becky and his advisors say the link between HIV and AIDS is unclear. They accuse drug companies of clouding the debate.
The drug companies have suddenly found that other parts of Africa do not have the logistics, do not have the capital, there's no chance of making massive profits. South Africa has the infrastructure to enable them to make the massive profits that they do. All the drug companies are here. You would think you are in the United States sometimes you are in South Africa. That is the reason. South Africa is the epicenter for drug companies.
Do you accept that HIV causes AIDS?
Why do you ask me this question today? I have answered this question umpteen times.
Yes, and the answer is?
When he steadfastly challenged President Mbeki's health minister in a celebrated interview on the HIV/AIDS controversy, Robbie quickly drew a stinging response from South Africa's governing party.
I find your reaction to that question absolutely bizarre. That is my final word on it. Bizarre.
And I
cannot take the rubbish anymore.
likely subtext, the government was sticking to its claims that HIV does not inevitably cause AIDS, and it wasn't going to put up with criticism.
It's such a vital issue, and we talk to medical people and we talk to people who work especially in the poorer communities where people are dying like flies because of AIDS and because the HIV statistics are so unbelievable. And there is this perception that there are intellectual debates going on, with people sitting on leather armchairs discussing academic issues while people are dying, and doctors are telling me HIV is the main cause of AIDS. We need action fast, and all we're getting is this ridiculous debate.
The future is supposed to be
let them
ours.
produce the evidence.
We're supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow, and because lately we, the youth, are dying before our parents are, and in the next generations, there's nothing our parents can do because I think they'll be all dead, and the generation after us are smaller kids, and there's nothing they can do, at that age, and our future is shattered. The leaders of tomorrow are all going to die, because of AIDS and because they're ignorant and they're doing things to impress their friends. 4, 5, 6, 7. This is what we're seeing, actually. We're seeing the young teenagers now, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, actually having babies. The babies are HIV positive, and those are the babies that are lying in my cots now. Is that, children like that end up having these babies, and then the babies are positive, and so it's a real downward cycle all the way along.
Babies like Barney. And little Wendy, who's also in the final stages of her disease. Okay, come on.
And then after that, it doubles again in another 24 years. That's why they created AIDS. Because they didn't want to have to go around the world and say, you and you up against the wall, you've got to die today, and shoot them. They did it in a manner to where they could target what they consider to be undesirable populations. And I want to be very clear that I don't agree with them on this. They specifically targeted blacks, Hispanics, and homosexuals for complete eradication. And AIDS is really going through those populations, and it's really doing a number of blacks, Hispanics, and homosexuals.
That theory has made news. I've heard that before, and
this
it's been
isn't a
debunked
theory.
very clear by the public, saying, "Oh, that's ridiculous." But you're saying that that may indeed be the case.
It's not ridiculous. I actually saw this in documents, and the project name was Project Naomi. MKNAOMI was the name of it.
A radical language, not about turning the other cheek. If somebody wants to knock me about on the basis of the color of my skin, I am not going to turn the other cheek. I've never been a turn the other cheek kind of person. I've always, you want to slap me? I'll whoop you down.
We must continue to delve deeper into the philosophy of nonviolent resistance. There is something about this method that has power. It has morality with it because it gives us the opportunity to work to secure moral ends through moral means.
The nonviolent structure didn't appeal to us. We never denounced it. Doesn't mean other people shouldn't do it. It's just it doesn't appeal to us because it, this is how Stokely Carmichael put it, it depends on the white man having a conscience.
We're here to support our system. Winnie Mandela. We are here to say no to the apartheid regime that consistently rages in South Africa and also here in America. We understand what's going on in America. At this very moment, they are debating the civil rights legislation in this country. As brothers and sisters, we have got to get with that activity because people do not want us to have our rights right here in the United States.
That woman has had to battle all the way to fight
she has had to emerge as the pillar in that society where she is deprived of the head of the family for very many reasons as a result of the country's law.
We've got to understand, especially as women, that Winnie Mandela embodies the pain that we feel. Winnie Mandela embodies the concentration of our efforts to keep our children and our families together. That's what Winnie Mandela is all about. Winnie Mandela symbolizes our hope. She's a woman that has audacity. Think about the audacity that this woman had coming out after being sentenced 6 years in prison. What did she say? Keep the pressure on. The struggle continues.
The National Committee of South African Police will have as from today institute the investigation of the behavior of the station. Will investigate those that say they are corrupt and would like to work with you to give us this information. TRT, Amabere, they'll be here to join already the team of Cress that is here will add to patrol your streets and take all gangsters whatever they try to be out of it. We agree on that. That shall be done as from today.
I was the one who felt that we had over-negotiated. In the process, we lost it. And I warned at the time that we over-negotiated, and the truth was we may have lost the land again in the process. Our struggle was a struggle for land. It was all about the return of the land to the owners of the land. Not the silly notion of driving the white man to the sea. The notion of fighting back to get back our land. And the problem at the time, which I foresaw, and we disagreed with Matiba over it, to say, yes, you say, let us negotiate. In the process of negotiation, we say the land belongs to all who live in it. The doors of landing shall be open. Now, how were we going to buy the land back from those who had stolen it? Because we were not going to seize the land back without compensation. There would have been grave consequences if we had done that. The bloodbath would still be continuing to this day. I believed that perhaps something went wrong when we were negotiating, when we over-negotiated, and we could have probably reached other decisions other than the willing seller, willing buyer. What are we going to buy the land with? Because in order for us to buy the land back, you have to raise the GDP, you have to build your country to an extent that the equality of our people is not a myth.
What's right with the neighborhood, all of that. What's wrong with the neighborhood? What's right with the neighborhood? Because there's a lot of people on this camera that don't know what's wrong with the neighborhood, man. When we trying to talk, they don't understand us, man. I'm locked in the system. They don't understand you behind that. You feel me? They don't hold me down. You feel me? You see that shit before your eyes. They don't understand you. They want to talk to a whole lot of talk. You seen somebody get killed before? Yeah, man. My homie in my arm, man. Come on. This shit real. We out here. This shit bigger than all that. We just don't want to say that shit. We know people interested in that shit, but it's a lot of shit that can't be said in this shit. You feel me? Like you were saying, gangs and shit all around this bitch. Yeah, that shit ain't gonna never stop. These niggas ain't no shit though, but you feel me? What we on right now, money like CC shit. You feel me?
a contrived effort in the sense that it's done consciously by a few men up at the top. It's built into the system. It's built into it's built into the nature of this society. And getting back to the question of what a revolutionary is, black revolutionary realizes that we cannot begin to combat racism. We cannot begin to effectively destroy racism until we've destroyed the whole system.
What he is doing are no different than the propaganda campaign that Hitler and his Nazi unit carried on in Germany that ended up eliminating 6 million Jewish people. Now, what is most interesting is that Hitler said the very same thing. He said, number one, that the Jews were genetically inferior to the Aryans.
Go back the other way where there's another broken out.
Linda, a point well taken by the officer. Those lights can be blinding if you look right into them.
We're behind the police lines, believe it or not. Now the officers have drug us back here. We're now trying to get back out. They're untangling the lines. We have all of these lines that you have to go remote.
That officer seemed to indicate that somebody may have been hit, or some of the officers may have been hurt.
He's indicated that. He wouldn't be specific, and I frankly have not seen that yet. Okay. Now they are attacking. It's like a police guard shack here on the grounds of Parker Center. They're hitting that. As you can see, we're walking, getting closer to that. They're throwing things at that.
Linda, are you afraid?
No.
You got anybody there that's sort of running interference for you?
I have my cameraman. Stop it here now. Turning this over. Pick him up. See that? This was a police guard shack on the grounds of Parker Center. Here we go.
We are going to wait and see what happens.
You can see right now they're just jumping on it. They're tearing it up. They're smashing it with their feet.
Paper in 1969, I wrote a paper called The Cress Theory of Color Confrontation and Racism. And the sole reason behind writing that paper was an attempt to understand the behavior of white people in relationship to all people of color, every place in the world, black, brown, red, and yellow people. And the paper was presented to the Americans at the National Medical Association, the section on psychiatry in neurology, because back in 1969, the Black Caucus in the American Psychiatric Association, we had said that racism, and when we talk about racism, we're talking about the white supremacy behavior of white people. That racism was the number one mental health problem in the nation, and it was the number one cause of other mental health problems. And I wanted to understand what this thing of racism really is all about, because it's the thing that has caused woe and misery and suffering for the vast majority of the people on this planet that are classified as non-white. And in my attempt to understand why the necessity of white people to keep saying that white is superior and that the condition of non-white is inferior, and the more I thought about it, in conjunction with an idea that a friend of mine had, that racism was a worldwide behavioral system for the maintenance of white supremacy by a small minority of people, I put those ideas together with what we know about genetics, what we know about the condition of skin whiteness itself. The condition of skin whiteness is the genetic inability to produce skin pigment called melanin. This is a genetic recessive trait. It is a genetic deficiency state, not as defined by Francis Welsing, but defined by geneticists and dermatologists, that the inability to produce the skin pigment of melanin or melanin pigment is described as albinism. And I think that white people, even though most white people are not consciously understanding their problem in genetics, they are certainly aware that they are genetically dominated by people of color. That's why it was a statement, one drop of black blood makes you black, because people of color have the genetic capacity to annihilate white people.
Your Majesty, the gentleman, the war machine created by Shaka Zulu was so monolithic. It has survived its death by almost half a century. Yes, the Crown has now defeated it, but that defeat is purely temporary. It can and will rise again and again if we do not stop it once and for all. And why? King Shaka was no ordinary man.
What was he?
He was a Messiah, a God figure, like an African Mephistopheles who gave the Jews glory and consolation.
Hoover saw any form of black organizing as a threat to the status quo as he saw it. Change that would have involved equality, that would have put power in black people's hands, was very much a threat to Hoover. He started something called COINTELPRO, directed against what he called black nationalist hate groups.
COINTELPRO was the abbreviation of Counterintelligence Program.
The purpose of this new counterintelligence endeavor is to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities of black nationalists.
Could it be Elijah Muhammad? They knew that Elijah Muhammad was in his 70s, and they figured it wouldn't be long before he would be gone, so don't bother about assassinating him, because that would have provoked revolution. So they went to work on Martin and Malcolm and Kwame Ture. If the aim of the world is to kill the messenger of God, and the aim of the Jews in the time of Jesus was to kill Jesus, and the aim of Pharaoh in the time of Moses was to kill Moses, then what will the aim of the government of America be when that one that Moses and Jesus were a sign of come into the world and are raised from among the masses of suffering blacks and given the truth that would free you from their grip? What would be the aim of the government of America towards such a man? Talk to me. You that love your enemy, talk to me. They thought Martin King was that man. And while Martin Luther King was sitting down with John Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson, they were plotting his death. Every black man that stood for you, the aim of the government was to kill him.
Makes me actually realize impatience, the need to defeat this regime. I don't mince my words when I'm speaking about this regime. I hate it intensely. Every time I stand on the platform, I'm reminded of this gruesome atrocities. I'm even reminded of my own children. If they had succeeded, they would kill me. My children were, at that time, one of them was 3 years old, one 10-year baby. And I saw it as basically an inhuman coverage. And people who were fighting for a right to oppress the majority of the people of this country. And I disagree with a lot of people in that particular narrative. Because the black narrative have done nothing about removing the forces that they created.
We're going to leave the ANC in our camp. We're proud about the ANC. There was no other life for us except the African National Congress. Let us make it a strong organization. Let us build our party. The Because it is the alliance of the ANC and the party which made this army what it is.
Of the right to exercise their opposition to what the National Party government is doing at the moment.
Janusz Walusz is a Polish immigrant. From Europe he brought his family and a passionate hate for communism. Little is known about this man who volunteered to shoot Chris Hani at point-blank range. He shows no emotion, his eyes stare without expression. Gay Darby Lewis, wife of Clive, a former nun from Australia, now turned South African right-wing fanatic. This is the woman who helped draw up a list of so-called enemies of South Africa. Chris Hani's name was on that list.
I went over the house and I saw Chris. He was lying there, clutching in his paper, and he was dead.
Houses were set alight, looted.
Public rage tore through the country. Many blacks lost patience with a peace process that seemed endless.
This country has ever known. We are a nation deeply wounded by callous, uncaring men who plot such heinous crimes with impunity. The cries of our nation are heard from old men who bury their sons and daughters, wives who weep for their husbands, communities who endlessly bury young and old, infants and pregnant women. This killing must stop. Chris Hani championed the cause of peace, trudging to every corner of South Africa, calling for a spirit of tolerance among all our people. We are a nation in mourning. Our pain and anger is there, yet we must not permit ourselves to be provoked by those who seek to deny us the very freedom Chris Hani gave his life for. Let us respond with dignity in a disciplined fashion. Let us observe April 14 in dignified memorial services and in accordance with the decisions of our leadership. The date of the funeral will be announced after consultation with the family.
I was annoyed. I was marooned in the Transkei when the decision was taken to suspend the Amstrad. My indemnity had been withdrawn. I had spent more than 27 years in MK. I had spent the best part of my life in an armed struggle against this regime. I was angry and bitter that this decision was taken without comprehensive consultation. That was my immediate gut feeling. I didn't sleep when our delegation was locked with de Klerk negotiating. I was waiting for the outcome. When there was that press conference early in the morning announcing the suspension of military activities, I felt like crying. I'm one of the people who have seen comrades dying, both inside the country and outside the country, in the struggle against the regime of terror in Pretoria. I know the names, I know the faces. I know how these young people put aside everything in life to concentrate in the fight against white domination.
The white man believes you when you to him with that old sweet talk, because you've been sweet talking him ever since he brought you here. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up,
Brother Minister
he shouldn't have a house.
And I pray that you and I will listen
and burn down.
Listen, hear, and understand.
And we believe that you're a fool to try and mix with someone who doesn't love you. But that doesn't mean that we in any way condone what those crackers are doing in Birmingham, Alabama. Our people should know that. And it is no accident that as long as the dogs were biting Negro women, Negro babies, and Negro children, Kennedy said nothing. It was only after the Negroes began to strike back. It was then that Kennedy called in the army. So don't you be fooled by Kennedy. Don't you be fooled by these Uncle Tom Negro preachers. When the dog attacks you, you get that dog, two-legged dog, or four-legged dog. Thank you.
Assassination was the result of the climate of hate. But only I said the chickens came home to roost, and which means the same thing.
You feel that we're making progress in this?
No. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound.
Well, these revelations that you are now making about Elijah Muhammad, what effect should they have on his followers?
Well, I very much doubt that any of his followers who really are aware of what he has done would continue to follow him. He may try and justify it by saying that he's a Muslim, and that a Muslim has a right to these wives. If this were the case, these sisters should not have been humiliated. These sisters have been looked upon for the past 5 years, or 6 years, or 7 years as being guilty of having committed fornication. They have been debased, they have been degraded. I have heard him himself refer to them as having disgraced him. So if they were his wives, he should have given them a position of respect so that all of his followers would respect him and that they would have the protection of his followers today.
Do you feel that you then, perhaps, now should take over the leadership of the black Muslims?
No, I have no desire to take over the leadership of the black Muslims, and I have never had that desire. But I do have this desire. I have a desire to see the Afro-American in this country get the human rights that are his due. I believe that the Islam religion is the best religion for our people because it creates unity and it gives one dignity and racial confidence and all of these things that are necessary to make a complete human being.
Are you not, perhaps, afraid of what might happen to you as a result of making these revelations?
Oh, yes. I probably am a dead man already. But, when you understand the makeup of the Muslim movement and the psychology of the Muslim movement, as long as if I myself, by having confidence in the leader of the Muslim movement, if someone came to me and I had no knowledge whatsoever of what had taken place, and they told me what I'm saying, I would kill them myself. The only thing that would prevent me from killing someone who made a statement like this, they would have to be able to let me know that it's true. Now, if anyone had come to me other than Mr. Muhammad's son, I never would have believed it even enough to look into it. But I had been around him so closely, I had seen indications of the reality of it. But my religious sincerity made me block it out of my mind.
Have you received threats on your life?
Oh yes. I first received threats on my life in December.
God has made me a better man for you than Malcolm X. I'm standing where Malcolm would have stood if he had the character to stand where I'm standing. And frankly, it ain't none of your business. What have you got to say about it? Did you teach Malcolm? Did you make Malcolm? Did you clean up Malcolm? Did you put Malcolm out before the world? Was Malcolm your traitor or was he ours? And if we dealt with him like a nation deals with a traitor, what the hell business is it of yours? You just shut your mouth.
Revolutionary suicide, a title that certainly has a lot of meaning, and I'm not sure what it means exactly. I read the book and just completed it last night, but your definitions evade me. Perhaps you could fill us in a little detail. What does revolutionary suicide mean?
To understand revolutionary suicide, you must understand reactionary suicide, or suicide, and the common definition of taking one's own life. Usually when a person commits suicide, reactionary suicide, it's because of environmental difficulty. In other words, the reactionary conditions force him to end his life. When the person who refuses to take his own life pits himself against almost unbeatable odds, he might end up shortening the span of life, but he has the possibility or the hope to transform the situation and therefore make life better for the generation to follow. this is one of the reasons that in every country the younger generation leads the revolution, but some very conscious older people do identify with the revolution, and I think this is universal.
Huey, I saw you in court the other morning, and while some interviews there, and I was thinking, what do you feel about sitting in court being judged by the people that the revolution that you're fighting is against? How you feel? Tell me.
I feel very little different, and I feel being free on having so-called freedom on the streets of white America. There you have in the so-called freedom you have you're completely controlled by a white establishment, a white racist establishment, and the court system is simply a part of this institution, this racist institution that's oppressing all black people throughout racist America. And that as far as the justice, I see very little justice that a black man can possibly get within the court system as it exists. And the black community is now standing up and demanding a revolutionary change within the court system.
Tell me, if you were to be in a position in the future, what would you say it would be like?
That's a very difficult question, but I have all faith in the people, in the black community, and I have very good counsel, and I have hope that change will come very soon, so that the court will be modified, so that black people will get justice all over this country. But it will be very difficult for me to say exactly what will, or even predict what will be the outcome.
Your environment here in jail, you say what it does for you in terms of your strength, thinking ideas, and the people that you're surrounded with. What it does, could you explain that?
Well, at this point, and I think that I won't be resigned now or in the future that my beliefs are as strong or even stronger as they were before this incident. I remember when I used to go to church in Sunday school, the minister would say often that suffering is good for the soul, that it makes one stronger. So I think that I've experienced this here in jail because the punishment seems to make a black man stronger.
your neighbors?
No. You don't care? I don't care.
Why? I mean, but what? How can you explain this, man? Is this gonna solve anything?
I'm 39, be 40 in a couple months, and so help me God, I never seen parents teaching children to steal. I mean, breaking the windows down and pushing the kids in the store to steal. If I had done that, my mom would beat the stuffings out of me if she had caught me stealing. But these parents teaching their kids to steal, I can't understand it. But they ever take their kids to church? Do they ever teach them to believe in Jesus? I don't believe this stuff. I just can't.